Aloha from Hawaii. My name is Ron Slee. I'm the managing director of an employee development business called Learning Without Scars. We've been training people in the operational sides of the distribution business for the last 50 years. And during that time, we've created a syllabus, a curriculum of classes numbering 94, and job function skills assessments for most of the job functions across parts, service, product support, selling, and marketing. Today, I'd like to talk to you about customer service, specifically a subject we call You Make It Matter. But let's start with the definition. There's a lot of people that are in the customer service business but don't understand how to measure it. It's a very subjective thing. I provide great customer service. No, you don't. It's very hard to come to an objective definition. What we use is that customer service is the difference between the expectations that the customer has before the transaction and the perceptions that the customer has about the service they got after the transaction. It's the old case of under promise, over deliver. Customer walks into your store, they have an expectation. Are they going to have to wait? When they walk into your store, they have an expectation about what it looks like. Is it crowded? Is it noisy? Is it attractive? You have in-store merchandising. Can they walk around and self-shop? Is there a counter? How high is the counter? Is it waist high, separating us and them? Or is it desk high? There's a lot of different issues that go into the world of customer service. One of the most important ones is consistency. Imagine you're out on a Sunday drive with your family and you're going to stop and have a bite to eat. And you come up on one of the restaurants on the highway, whatever brand you want to call it. You say, well, I can go in there, I won't die. Customer service is about consistency. You can't go into this store and expect something terrific and not get it without being disappointed, without somebody feeling badly. So you need to be consistent. You can't be a superstar one day and a slug the next. If you're going to be mediocre, stay mediocre. Do not confuse your customer. So in You Make It Matter, you make a difference. How do we do that? We make a difference, we make it matter with our customers. You also make it matter, you make a difference with your vendors. You clearly matter and you make a difference with your coworkers, to your employer. You make a difference to a lot of different people in the course of your work, in the course of your day. Now, one of the things that's very different about the product support world, the customer service world, is every single day you have to be on your game. You have to be consistent. You have to be able to perform every single day consistently, no matter how you feel, no matter how bad that last call might have been or how rude that last customer might have been. You have to remain consistent. You have to make a difference. So, is it making a difference by delivering the parts? Is it making a difference coming in on a Sunday? What are all those things that add up to making a difference? Well, first we have to explore our job. What is it you do? Well, most of you can tell me that pretty readily. You're serving customers, you're selling parts, you're picking parts, you're shipping parts, you're packing parts, you're ordering parts. Everything to do with parts. You're troubleshooting, you're answering technical questions. Okay, that's a reasonable description of what it is you do. But it's a little too general, isn't it? But let me get a little bit more pointed. How do you do it? Well, most of you, maybe not all of you, but most of you can tell me how you do it. You can relate to me what the procedures are and the systems and the policies and the methods and the forms. But if you're like the rest of us, human nature is such that we're only going to go so far with our learning how to do things. Take, for instance, a word processing system or a spreadsheet system. You're going to learn what it is for you to be able to use the tool, but you won't be able to use the full capacity and full potential of what that tool can do for you. That's just too much. Is it possible you do the same thing at work? You understand the system to the degree that you can use it, but not to its full potential. You understand the process and the procedure to the same degree, but not to its full potential. Let me share with you a little anecdote about potential. When I was a teenager, somebody made the mistake of telling me I had a lot of potential. Well, I was pretty proud of that. I thought that was terrific. He thought that I had a lot of potential, that I could do things. But imagine 50 years later if the same person said to me, "You have a lot of potential, Ron." I'd have to wonder what I'd been doing the last 50 years, wouldn't I? So the capacity of your systems, your processes, your individual capacity, your individual potential needs to be extended to the edge. You need to constantly be pushing the edge, adapting and adjusting how you do things. The world evolves, systems change, technology has changed. We're doing a virtual convention today for the National Trailer Dealer Association. This is the first virtual convention that they've had. We've never confronted this before. The association has had to adapt. The presenters and the sponsors have had to adapt and adjust. Otherwise, there wouldn't be one. And that would be a shame. That would be a real loss. So think about the how you do things relative to adapting and adjusting to the reality of the world around you as it is today. Then we come to the real question. Why do you do it? And no, don't tell me it's about salary or payment. You get paid because you do something. You're not doing the job to get paid. There has to be something more to it. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. It's hard for them to tell me why. They've never really thought about it. Well, I'd like you to think about what it is you're doing pretty regularly. I'd also like you to think about how you do things because you can always make it better. But more importantly, I want to understand why we do what we do. Let's face it, we do this because we like to serve people. And that's not necessarily cool to say that in today's environment. You've got to have a servant's heart. You've got to like satisfying customers' needs and wants. You got to like making people happy. You got to like dealing with customers who are having a hard time. They're frustrated. Their equipment's down. They need a part. They got to get it back. You don't have it. You got to somehow get them through that. And when they leave, feeling better about the whole circumstance. So what you do, how you do it, and why to do it is a very important piece of the puzzle of customer service. What we need to be careful with as we approach our jobs is the systems that are involved. There's a lot of complications to dealer business systems, but it's not just the dealer business system we have to pay attention to. We have to know the vendor's business system. We have to be able to find parts. We have to be able to find technical material, features and benefits, specifications. We've got to be able to deal with catalogs. Today, they're electronic catalogs. Not that long ago, they were paper. And maybe you've got a mixed bag between electronic with some vendors and paper with others. You've got to know how to use all of those tools at your disposal if you want to make a difference to your customer. The electronic catalog represents current technology. It's like Amazon or any other of the major internet providers. You got a catalog, you can drag and drop the part number into a shopping cart, You can release the shopping cart and place the order. You can then process the payment through a credit card. It's rather fun, isn't it? And now we've got to start paying attention to that wonderful thing called telematics, where we know where all of the trailers and reefers are around our territory if they're so equipped, where we can monitor the specific health of the trailer and the reefer, the braking system, etc. Many years ago, we used to have a caboose on a train. It was a beautiful red car. The romantic image of a potbelly stove sitting in the back of the caboose and the men taking a break and going back and having a sandwich. Today, it's a little device on the back of the train that transmits all of the data via the internet, via satellite, to a data collection center, to a cloud computer. All this jargon, all this difficulty. But we've got to get back to the point that we can solve customers' problems. We can satisfy the needs and wants that they have. Part of that is dealing with expectations, isn't it? And how are we going to know what those needs and wants are, those expectations are, unless we ask? So every single time we're communicating with the customer, whether at the counter or on the telephone, we need to be having a dialogue. We need a conversation. A dialogue is from the Greek word that means flow of meaning. So we're going to have a discussion with the customer. What do you need? The first thing, if they're ordering parts, is my standard question: who's doing the work for you? If you're ordering parts, if your customer's ordering parts across the counter or on the telephone from you, your technicians aren't doing the work. That's okay. There's a lot of other people out there that do good work. But let's find out who they are so that we can start building up our competitive information. This customer likes to use George Smith. That customer likes to use Frank Jones. Then we can start exploring how good that technician is, mechanic is, in ordering parts. Customers ordering 12 of something that you only sell 3 times in a year. We have to be able to get into a discussion with the customer. What is it you're doing? That seems a little bit unusual. We have to be able to ask questions. Questions aren't rude. Questions are trying to help us understand what it is the customer needs and wants. And there's many types of questions, but one of the methods of questioning that I want you to be able to employ is what's called open-ended questions. You ask a question that is requiring an answer that's a paragraph, not a yes or no. I used to come home on a Friday night after teaching selling classes, 2 classes in a week, and my wife and I would have a glass of wine and we'd catch up on the week, and she'd ask me a question and I would flip it out and answer a question right back. And she'd do it again a little bit later on and I'd do the same thing again. She said, "Ronnie, stop. You're not working anymore." Because typically when you're asking a question, when a customer asks you a question, you need to make that question very specific. So you need to ask a follow-up question. It's a standard thing. We were blessed with 2 of these and 1 of those. We're intended to listen more than talk. And in the sales world, selling parts at the counter or over the telephone, and we are selling parts. We're not just processing orders. We're selling parts and supplies. We have to listen carefully. We have to find out what it is that the customer needs and wants. The other place that you can make a difference is your knowledge of the equipment that you're supporting, the trailers, the reefers, the componentry, the braking systems, whatever and all of those things that your company represents. You also need to know every bit as much about the competitors' products. You want to be able to talk knowledgeably. You want your customer to be able to come to you asking questions because they know you're going to have the answer. And they also know if you don't have the answer, you're going to find it and get it for them. That's an important part of the customer service world, a part of the world that we are in the parts business, and how we make a difference for our customers. We also have to know the parts families, the families of parts we're selling, the bearings and the filters and the fluids and the hose and the fittings and the suspensions and the brakes, axles, tires, etc. You have to know all of the features and benefits, how they're made, why they're different, and all of your competitors. It's a big job, isn't it? There's a lot to know. So go back to the what do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? There's a lot to know. Don't stop halfway. Become the expert. Become essential to your customer. I mentioned the business systems. You also have to know all the business systems. So I have to know the equipment. I have to know the parts. I have to know the systems. And then most importantly, I have to know the customers. I have to know everything there is to know about this customer without being intrusive. How long have they been in business? What kind of a company is it? How many units do they have? How big are they? Do they go outside the state? Are they local? Who are their customers? What's their reputation? Who do they compete with? It's very important that we understand the company, the customer company. Then I want to be able to understand the individual that I'm dealing with. Who are they? They married? Single? Well educated? High school education? College education? Technical school? Have they been doing this a long time? They got children? What are their hobbies? What do they like to do? I want to become a friend to every customer. I want to become essential. I want to make a difference. I want to provide service, but I want to be a friend. It's awfully hard to say no to a friend, isn't it? It's awfully hard to walk away from a friend. Many of you understand and know that customer retention is the core of the success of a company. I want to have every customer for life. The Japanese taught us that in the 1980s. Customers for life. It was taught to them by two Americans who created the total quality movement, the continuous quality improvement, which has since morphed into a series of things. When I was in school, it was called industrial engineering. Then it went to Six Sigma, now it's 4S. Actually, it's 7S. Different buzzwords for consultants like me. You change the rules of the game, you change your fees, and you come back fresh and refreshed. But I need to be able to make a difference to my customer. So I have to understand what it is that they want and need and what they expect from me so that I can satisfy that need. They have very simple needs from us. They want to know if we have it. Availability is the number one issue for them. They want us to be convenient to them. Look at your store locations. Look at how your hours of service. Look at the days of the week that you work. Are you convenient to them? Of course, price is important, but as you already heard me say, price is only important when every other aspect of the transaction is the same. And importantly, finally, is quality. And quality is a little bit mystical. It's expressed by warranty more than any other way. If you think about quality and you think about warranty, I should be able to give a lifetime warranty because the warranty is against defects in workmanship and material. If that's the standard, a part will last until it's worn out. So we have a series of things that are going to make us essential to the customer. One of the most important things is we have to stay current. So we need to have some means whereby we get feedback from customers and from our bosses about our skills, our knowledge. At Learning Without Scars, we spent a lot of time developing job function skills assessments. These assessments are 90 questions, multiple choice, and provided a score, a grade. I used to teach education in a previous life, and we always were interested in gaps. What's the skills gap What's your knowledge gap? What don't you have that you need to have? And the only way we can get to this is have an honest discussion back and forth, which is why our assessments have turned out to be so valuable. It's an objective evaluation. And we give every employee a score, and it categorizes them to learning classes according to basic skills, intermediate skills, advanced skills, and expert skills. And we have 8 classes for each of those 4 different levels that say to the employee, pick one of these classes that you feel you're the weakest at and take the class and improve your skills. We wrap these assessments, whether it's ours or somebody else's, into the annual performance review, which is something that I believe very seriously is missed in most industry today. Sitting down once a year with each employee and discussing the good, the bad, the ugly, separating it from a review of pay, because then we end up with a little bit of a competition back and forth between the boss and the employee. The employee wants more money, the boss maybe doesn't want to give it. What the annual performance review is supposed to do is highlight to the employee those things that they could do, that they need to do to get better at what they do, to put themselves in a position that they would be available for a promotion, for more money. It's not mentioned as a critique. That's too late. If you notice something that's bad, if you notice bad behavior or a bad activity, you need to deal with it right then and there, not publicly, in private. You celebrate success gloriously in public. You criticize employees quietly in private. You don't want to destroy people as they go through. So every single person that's touching a customer, the people that I call your heroes, who are allowing the customers to be satisfied with your work, to be satisfied with your company and your business, meaning that they will continue to do business with you, that your customer retention will be strong. They're the critical element. They truly are your heroes. Harvard did the definitive study on customer service back in the early 1990s. They did hundreds of thousands of customer interviews. And what they found was that if you can improve customer retention by 5 percentage points, from 80 to 85, for instance, you will increase the profitability of your business by 45%. I was doing a lot of consulting work at the time, and I read the book and was a little bit suspicious, or skeptical is a better word. So I started testing it across my clientele. And sure as shooting, increasing retention by 5 percentage points resulted in a very large, almost a 50% improvement in profitability. Not that easy to do, though. Easier said than done. So one of the things I'd like you to do to become essential to your customers is have a look at the customer's purchases. What did they buy last year? What are they buying so far this year? And any customer who stops buying, in other words, they bought something last year, but they haven't bought anything so far this year, call them. Ask them what's going on. I used to tease and say, what's happening? Is my deodorant breaking down? I haven't heard from you for a long time. Because I want to be friendly with every customer. Because I want the customer to understand. I have a style. Each of us is going to have a style. And each of us has to understand what it is we're trying to do. And the customer needs to understand what we're trying to do as well. The customer might not accept that what I'm trying to do is helpful. Then we should have a discussion, a frank and honest discussion. Because I truly am trying to satisfy their needs and wants. I truly am trying to have their perception of my service exceed the expectations they had coming in. I would like each and every person who touches a customer to make a difference for that customer. I believe that that helps every employee. When they go home at night after a day's work, they feel good about what they did. It's a very different circumstance in a blue-collar world where I'm producing things. I know how many widgets I made today. And I can take pride in the fact that, well, gee, I had a good day. I made 12 today. Yesterday, I only made 10. When we leave from selling parts, from processing parts, from serving customers in the parts business, it's very hard to have some tangible measure of how well we did. There's a wonderful author out there by the name of Patrick Lencioni who wrote a book called The Three Signs of a Miserable Job. If those of you who like to read, it's a wonderful book. He writes books like fables, so this is a nice story. And those three signs are anonymity, irrelevance, and immeasurability. And each one of them, to some degree, is a bit of a smack at leadership in business. Anonymity is that the employee doesn't think that anybody understands who they are as a person. In other words, the boss doesn't know whether they're married or not, have children or not, their wife is sick, their child just scored a goal in hockey or a goal at soccer, or they had a wonderful scholar. They feel anonymous. Shame on the boss, shame on the leadership. Irrelevance. It's very hard for people in the parts business or any other aspect of the distribution world for that matter to understand how relevant their work is to the overall picture of the company. After all, I'm just processing parts orders all day long. I'm just pricing parts and quoting parts and picking parts and packing parts. They have to understand in their head and in their gut how important that is, how relevant that is to the success of your business. And then the tricky one, immeasurability. As Lencioni says, that's not even an English word, but he uses one, he creates it. Because for most office jobs, I can't measure my performance. Well, again, that's a leadership issue because we need to be able to establish methods, metrics, standards, things that we can measure. How many orders did I process today? How many customers did I call today? How many back orders did I find today? Very simple things that the employee can measure without anybody making a comment about it. This is their measurement of their performance. This is partly what we do with our assessments. The assessments is their answer to this question. It's between them and the computer. They see the score. Unless they agree, the boss does not see the score. So customer service, exceeding expectations with the perception of service, making a difference to the customer, to the company, to your co-workers, to the vendor, making yourself essential to your customers, to your company, is critical. We need you to make a difference. We need you to be able to reach your potential. And if you do, your life and the life of all of those people around you will be made better. Hopefully this helps you a little bit, and if it does, have a look at our website, Learning Without Scars, and if you have any questions relating to this discussion or anything you see out there, drop us a note through the website. There's a contact reference there. One last comment, please, if you do go to the website, take a moment and follow our blog. Thanks for your attention and all the best to you. And I sincerely believe you can make a difference. Thanks a lot.